Hello everyone, it is April. Today we're doing a wrap-up, September wrap-up, and also half of August. Since I was away in September, which was a good long time, I read quite a few books and I have a lot of stuff to get through, so grab yourself a cup of tea or something because we might be here for a little while. Also, this is the result of the haircut, okay? Talked about that in my last video, which, by the way, it was so nice. I got so many lovely comments. I missed you guys too, so that was very lovely. So the whole point of this haircut is to go with curtain bangs, but at the moment it looks weird because my bangs are too short. So I'm still rocking the bangs with the intention of growing them out, but I did get a good chop, which feels so good. Shall we talk about the books that I read? I'm going to go in order of how I read them, so I hope you don't mind. We're going back to August. Whoo! And we're starting with This Tender Land by William Kent Kruger. So this was my book club book over on Patreon. If you don't know, have a little book club. And we read This Tender Land together. And this follows a group of orphans in the 30s. And they all live at an Indian residential school, and they are not nice people for the most part at that school, as you can imagine. And they decide to run away after one of the boys does something against the law. He has to run away, and it follows them getting into a canoe and going down the Minnesota's Gilead River and trying to get by on their own. I did enjoy this. I ended up giving it 3 stars. Did find it quite long. And it was hard to flip the pages towards the end. This is 450-ish pages. And at the end, I was just like, I'm ready for it to be done now. Not a bad book in any way, shape, or form. You know, I did really care about the characters. I did find some of them annoying at times and what they decide to do in various situations annoying, but I think that just makes them, you know, well-rounded characters. I will say there is a little girl in here named Emmy who, when she speaks, it sounds like she's like, I don't know, I think she's meant to be like 7, but she's 7 going on like 42 or something, because her vocabulary is just not that of a little child. So I found that hard to picture her because of her vocabulary. It didn't make sense to me. But there were lots of plot twists in here that I didn't see coming. And I did enjoy it. 3 stars. I don't think I'm going to keep this on my shelf, but it was good. Next up is The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins. I listened to this on audio, and I imagine there are many, many audio versions of this, and I don't know which one I listened to, but the narrator was very dramatic. And it kind of worked for the story because the story itself is also dramatic. This follows a man, Walter Hartwright, who is walking in northern London, and he encounters a woman in white who is terrified, and he tries to go to her aid, and then she kind of disappears. He does help her, but she disappears, and he's on the hunt for her for much of this book. I did have a lot of fun reading this. It is a classic. I'm glad I can say that I read Wilkie Collins, but I did find it to be like over dramatic and sometimes silly. Lots of twists and turns, which were really fun, but quite silly. And so I gave it 3 stars in the end. I'm glad I read it. You know, it's a classic that everyone should read, I feel like. So I'm glad I can say I've read Wilkie Collins now. A book I did not like one bit, not even a smidge. And I was determined to read this in August because it's the end of summer, you know. It's Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really didn't like this book. Like, giving it 2 stars is generous. I probably should have given it 1 star. This follows a family in Malibu in 1983, and they're about to throw a party, and they do this every single year at their like beach house on the coast, and they're all like surfers and everything. They all have a father who is very, very famous. They're not close to him, but they're known from him, and they all have these secrets that they're hiding from one another. And the whole idea is they have this party. By the end of the night, Malibu is burning, and so is their house. I found the characters extremely annoying, and this was again tied to fame, and I think that is just what Taylor Jenkins Reid does. I feel like it felt so similar in a lot of ways to Daisy Jones and the Six that I feel like if you've read that, you don't really need to read this. And I think I might be done with Taylor Jenkins Reid at this point. I really enjoyed The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, but since then I've read Daisy Jones, felt meh about this, and then I've read Malibu Rising, felt annoyed by it. All of the characters are annoying in this. And yeah, I think I'm done. Yeah. Let me know. Oops. Let me know in the comments below if you have read that. What did you think of it? Do you feel differently? Oh, I cannot. Okay, I cannot. And the last book from August is The Mysterious Howling. This is a middle grade book, and I heard about this from Jean, from Jane's Bookish Thoughts, and she loves this book. And it's about a caretaker, a governess who goes to take care of these children. These rich people have fostered, adopted this group of children, and they are all feral. They were found out in the woods. I think they were taken care of by wolves, and so they literally howl. And I think the rich people just thought it would be kind of fun to just take in these feral children, and the governess comes in to actually take care of them and show them love. And this was quite funny and cute, and I did enjoy it. I listened to it on audio, and that was a good choice, I think. I don't think I'll continue with this series. It wasn't that good for me. Like, I did enjoy it, but I was looking for a little more magic or a little more mystery, and it had neither of those to me. But it is a really funny book, so if your kids like funny books, then maybe this would be a good one. I will say the vocabulary is really, really high. Like, it's very complex words and that kind of thing, so you'd need a kid that's a little older to read this. Shall we move into the books I read in September? I know we're flying through it, but like, there's so many books to discuss. If I sit down and talk about each of the books in great detail, it will be overwhelming, I think. So, and it will just be a long video. So let's just stick to the goods, the basics. In September, I listened to one of the best books I've read this year, and that was Cast: The Origins of Our Discontents by Isabel Wilkerson. This woman is a genius. She really is. She, in this book, makes you realize that the Black experience, specifically in America, is very similar to the caste system that exists in India. And I had never really thought to compare the two. And she just made it so clear that that is what is going on here. She speaks to her own experience as a Black woman, and being treated as less than because of her color, and also because of her sex. And she also goes into history, so much history. She goes into the history of Nazi Germany, and how Nazi Germany actually took cues from the South, and how the South treated their Black citizens. And that is terrifying. This book will open your eyes in such an amazing way. I adored it. 5 stars all the way. Forever 5 stars. Just incredible. Next up is 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I love Catherine Ryan Howard, but this one just, it wasn't my favorite. It was my least favorite of her books that I have read. So this follows 2 characters who meet at a grocery store in Ireland. They have both recently moved to Ireland, and then the pandemic, COVID-19, comes ashore and they decide to move in together and like let this love blossom. And at the end of it, one of them is dead in the apartment and the other one has vanished. I enjoyed aspects of it. I found the characters really interesting, and this is a very character-driven book, and thank goodness for those characters and the aspects of them, and who had good intentions, who had bad intentions. I really did enjoy that dance. There was a lot of a cat and mouse game in this book. So I enjoyed that aspect. I found the way that the book was structured to be a little bit annoying. So you follow present day, where you follow a detective finding the body and dealing with that. I thought all of that was great. Then you go back in time when these 2 people first meet, and you witness them throughout the journey of being in lockdown together, I should say. And you jump back and forth. And I found that a little bit annoying because you are reading about the same events from different perspectives. So you read it from his perspective, and then you kind of read it all over again from her perspective. And because it's character-based, that worked to a certain extent, but it got a little bit boring. And at the end, I didn't really care who was going to live and who was going to die, even though I was invested in the characters. So I don't know what to say about this book other than if you haven't read a Catherine Ryan Howard, I would start elsewhere, like try to start with like Rewind or something. This was just okay. It was kind of fun to read about COVID-19 and like the early days and how you reacted. Like that's all in here, and I did enjoy that. Oh, next we're moving into a very disappointing book, and I'm so sad. I read Nothing But Blackened Teeth by Cassandra Shaw, or Kaw, I should say, and I gave this 2 stars. This is about a group of like daredevil friends, and 2 of them are getting married at a haunted mansion, and all of the friends go there, and they are indeed haunted. I thought this was going to be so fun and terrifying. It's a short little book, just over 100 pages, but I was not scared in the least. I wasn't scared at all, and I really wanted to be scared. And this group of friends I found to be extremely annoying. They all have, you know, many of them have these romantic pasts with one another. And there's so much talk about like, why did you leave me? Why did you cheat on me? Why did you do that? Like, that's what this book was more about than the ghosts. And I found that to be very annoying. So I didn't like it. I was so sad because like Tor sent this to me, and I really wanted to like it, guys, but I really didn't. Yeah, very sad times. Next up is The Daughters of Foxcote Manor by Eve Chase. This is about, well, it kind of goes back and forwards in time, but this is essentially about a family who discover a baby in the woods and take the baby in, and all of the ramifications of that. There is a nanny who cares for the baby. and the family's reaction to the baby, specifically after losing a child of their own, and how this impacts the present in that time and also the future and future generations. I ended up giving this 3 stars. I felt like it was a very cozy. It was a cozy mystery, definite gothic vibes. There's this like big mansion and big old house, and I always love those kinds of books. It's very, very cozy, especially at this time of year. But I listened to this on audio, and there are a lot of perspectives, and I got confused between the narrators. So they all kind of blended together for me, and that doesn't work when you have multiple mysteries going on that yes, are linked, but are also distinct. So I wish that I had read this in physical form. I know now that I won't read Eve Chase via audio. I think I have a couple of her books, so I'll read them in physical form. It was good. 3 stars. Definitely will be reading more by Eve Chase, because it's very cozy and I thought very, very well written. But just in physical form, I think is best. Next, I listened to Binti on audio, and I ended up giving this 3 stars. This is a very short kind of sci-fi novella that follows Binti, who leaves her home planet, her home community, to become a student at this intergalactic school. And no one from her community has ever left, and no one from her community has ever gone to the school. And she had a very bright future in her community, and her family doesn't really support her making this decision for herself. Like, she was supposed to get married and, you know, be a good wife, and she wants more for herself. And so she gets on this spacecraft, and it is taken over. And she is kind of held hostage. I preferred the first half of this story, the concept of like going to a new school and the newness and everything. I really enjoyed that. I didn't so much enjoy the second half. I liked the magic system in this, and her magic system is very much tied to her home community. I really enjoyed that, but it lost its magic from me as the book went on. Now, this is a whole series, and I think I'm just gonna leave it be. I don't think I'll continue with the series, but it was good, and I was glad to have picked up a sci-fi for sure. I do have a couple of DNFs coming up in here. So the next book I DNF'd, and that was Dominicana. This is about a young woman who, well, really, she's a girl. And she's given the opportunity to marry an older man and move to New York. And she's not in love with him in any way, shape, or form. She is young, like early teens young, I want to say. She's really encouraged to make this move for her mother, to take care of the family. And so she agrees to move and to marry this man. And he has moved to New York before he comes back to get her, and he's not living well. And by no fault of his own, it's very difficult for him as an immigrant to succeed in New York. And I think it was just not the right book for me at that time. There's bits about rape in here, and it just was really getting to me in a bad way. So I decided to DNF it because I was kind of disgusted. It's like child bride and rape and just too much for me in that moment. So I had to DNF it for my mental health. After reading that, I decided to go for something a little lighter. And so I picked up The Library of the Dead. I listened to this on audio. And this is about a girl who can commune with ghosts, and that's how she makes her money. She is hired by people to essentially get rid of ghosts from their home or connect with ghosts, find missing people, what have you. And she does do that until she stumbles upon a magic library and gets absorbed in that world, and it moves into like this magical thing, and there is a mystery within it that are linked all the way through about children going missing and being kind of experimented on. And I thought I was going to really like this, but what ended up happening was throughout reading it, I was like, oh, that's kind of like His Dark Materials. Oh, that's kind of like Nevermore. Oh, that is kind of like Lockwood and Co. And there were too many of those moments. And what I realized was what I like about each of those books and series in and of themselves is that the first book really develops the worlds, and the world building is really well done. And this book felt like it was trying to do too many things and not building the world itself. I wasn't comfortable in the world itself. I didn't believe the world itself before branching out into different mysteries and that kind of thing. And so I ended up giving it 2 stars because I found myself frustrated by it. It could have been great, but it just wasn't for me. Next is a book called Madam by Phoebe Wynne, I think. I ended up DNFing this. I was listening to it on audio, and so the book itself sounded so promising. It's meant to be this gothic story about a woman who becomes a teacher at an all-girls boarding school. I didn't get into it very far. The first chapter was so interesting because it talks about this fire that takes over and starts burning down this very boarding school. So I was really sucked in right away, but then as it went on, I found it to be very boring and more about our main character, who is this teacher, and trying to get along with the girls. And I was like, where is the mystery? And also, where is the ambiance? There wasn't a ton of ambiance, so I decided to DNF it because I was starting to roll my eyes, and that's a sign. Stop reading it. That's a sign. And maybe it wasn't so lucky for Madam that I was reading this book in physical form at the same time, because this did a girls' boarding school in such a phenomenal way. This is The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This was our book club book for September, and it did not disappoint in any way, shape, or form. This goes back and forwards in time. We follow a woman who was a reporter. Her older sister died on the grounds of Idlewild Hall, which is a boarding school that was, I think it was, I want to say canceled, kind of canceled after a series of deaths, specifically her sister's death. It's just ended at that point. Now, the guy who killed her sister is in jail, but she feels like there is more to the mystery and more to the death of her sister than what she has learned and what she's been told. And so she delves into Idlewild Hall because they're planning to start it up again. An elderly woman has bought Idlewild Hall with the intentions to start it up again. So there's that storyline. And then you go back in time to a group of girls who are living at Idlewild Hall, and they live there because they have been troublemakers in one way or another, and or are not wanted by their families in one way or another. So they really lean on each other, and they have this like beautiful friendship with each other, all the while being haunted by a ghost that lives at Idlewild Hall named Mary. This was so creepy. I loved every second of this. It was atmospheric. It was creepy. It blended so many genres. It blended the gothic genre, the horror genre, the mystery genre, and the historical fiction genre all together. And usually I would be like, you're taking on too much. But Simone St. James got it done. She got it done, and I was riveted and could not put this down. I cannot wait to read more by this author. If you read more by her, what would you suggest I read next? Very, very excited to have found like maybe a new favorite author. I say that after reading one book, but you know what I mean. So exciting. So 5 stars to The Broken Girls. Next is a very short, actually a short story by Philip Pullman. I was like, I nearly said Philip Seymour Hoffman. No, Philip Pullman, who wrote his Dark Materials. This is Serpentine, and I ended up giving this 3 stars. It follows Lyra and her daemon, Pan, and I really enjoyed it. I don't want to say too much because a lot of the twists and turns in here, or a lot of the storyline, I should say, in here, would ruin the other books. So I don't want to say anything. I did enjoy it. It was so nice to be with Lyra and Pan again. I cannot wait for him to like continue along with his Book of Dust series. We've been waiting a couple of years now, so I'm hoping that he's continuing on with that. Next up is Magic Lessons by Alice Hoffman. I ended up giving this 4 stars. This is the origin story about the Owens family and why the Owens women have this curse on them in which anyone that they fall in love with, terrible things happen to them. And where the curse began. We are told in the rest of the series, in Practical Magic and Rules of Magic, that it all started with Maria Owens, and we meet her in the 1600s as a baby, and we follow her throughout her life. We follow her starting her own family. And I really did enjoy this. I ended up giving it 4 stars. Very atmospheric, a really great read for this time of year. I think any part of this series is great for anyone out there who wants to read about a creepy concept, because it's about witches, but doesn't want to be scared, because you're not scared reading this. This is really about family. And I enjoyed it. I will say that when it got to the point where Maria is creating this curse on her own family, where love is frowned upon and love, is kind of forbidden, I was kind of mad at her. I was kind of mad at her, and I don't know if I really forgave her at the end, kind of. But it felt like, why did you... I think because you know what happens to the rest of the generations, you want it to be a really serious thing that she thinks long and hard about before she makes this curse. And it felt like I understood from her perspective, but felt almost too flippant to me, because there's so much of a ramification. There are so many ramifications for that decision. So I was annoyed by her, but I did enjoy this book, and I listened to it on audio. I think I'm going to read Practical Magic next on audio. And I think she's actually coming out with a new one in the series sometime in October. So maybe I'll listen to that as well. Last is a book that I have very mixed feelings about. It's a book that I was so highly anticipating. And I still don't know what to think about it. I finished it yesterday when I'm filming this. It was September when I finished it. This is Cloud Cuckoo Land by Anthony Doerr. In this book, we follow several different characters in several different time periods. We follow 2 people, a boy and a girl, or a woman and a man, young. who live in the 1400s on either side of the walls of the siege of Constantinople. So Anna lives in Constantinople, and she is living with her sister as like a seamstress. And then Omer is on the other side as a warrior trying to bring down the walls of Constantinople. So you follow them. Then you also follow two people. Seymour, who is very environmentally conscious, extremely environmentally conscious. And you also follow Zeno, who is kind of taking part and doing this production of a play that that he cares very deeply about. And they're both at a public school library when someone comes in and is trying to blow the place up. You follow them, and then you also follow Constance in the near future, kind of in the future, on a interstellar ship bound for an exoplanet. They're all connected by this one piece of literature called Cloud Cuckoo Land. I don't even know how to explain my thoughts on this. This was such a complex book. I know that this took Anthony so much time and patience to link all of these people together and link all of these storylines together. And he managed to do it. Like, I don't know how he did it. He did manage to do it. I will say I ended up giving it 3 stars. It was really long, like 600 pages long, and very depressing, very climate change focused, which I think was really important. And I think, you know, you can't really write that in an uplifting way, but it's just so heavy for 600 pages. It was 600 pages of heaviness, and a lot of animal cruelty in here, which you guys know I have a hard time with. Beautiful writing. It's Anthony. Beautiful writing. So I felt very mixed things. It was an homage to libraries. I liked that. Yeah, I just feel mixed things, but at the end of the day, I was kind of glad that it was over. Oh, I feel so badly saying that, but I did kind of feel glad that it was done. I think just because it was so heavy and so long. Yeah, I feel like a lot of the people who read All the Light We Cannot See, which I read and adored, might also have a hard time with this because it felt different. But I read it. I'm glad I read it. And those, we're kind of ending on a but those are all of the books that I have read since the last time I saw you guys back in August. Yeah, let me know in the comments below what you have read so far at the beginning of fall that has made you very happy. We need a little lightness after me going on and on about lots of books I didn't really love. Actually, it's interesting looking at this pile. There were many more books I didn't love than books I loved. So fingers crossed, October is just like pure magic for reading. Pure magic. Wish me luck. And I will talk with you soon. Bye.